Rule 34 Artists of Reddit. What was it like on the first time you started drawing porn? I write instead of drawing, though I do follow lots of NSFW artists and spend a fair amount of time cursing their skill and my lack thereof. First time I decided to write a full hardcore story, I was on a work trip sitting idle in a hotel lobby while waiting for the next work thing to happen. While I had a lot of experience writing in general, most sex scenes were always gently wafting curtains. Turning off that filter and writing full on engorged cock and swollen tits was quite liberating. Otherwise, I was sitting at work, so it felt more or less like being a cheeky student writing swear words on the desk. Later, writing in private, the work was more inspiring. Once you've done it for a while, you start working off the craft a little more than off the urge. First story came out like dirty talk during sex. Lots of focus on using sexy words, overly gratuitous moaning noises, stuff like that. Stories nowadays go a little more like dirty talk while having breakfast the next morning. Annoying. The first time you try to draw anatomy you've never done before, it's a pain in the ass. Boobs are surprisingly hard to make look right. Then again, some people pull a Michelangelo and staple them on, and it looks awful but no one notices. Edit. Well, now my top comment is my bitching about poorly drawn boobs on the internet. I should not be surprised. I often use porn as a reference for drawings because it's easy to find pictures of naked people of all sizes in every imaginable posture. So it wasn't that much of a leap. It was on Danboru you get a lot of likes and commissions. Easy money. But it gets old real quick. Don't know what people's deal is with tentacles. They always need more. I was inspired by Manara, who is a very fine artist. But he didn't only draw porn. You also start to understand things like why gynecologists aren't aroused by their work. My best friend, she's not a weeb by any stretch, has explained that tentacles in general came into hentai because penises had to be censored. So the search for something phallic that was acceptable through the censors wound up with tentacles. It kinda became its own thing from there. Tentacles are flexible in ways penises aren't, and don't block views the way bodies do. They also don't have restrictions on weight, positioning, or number, so you have a triple pen, or more, without any view obstruction, in poses that would be impossible in traditional porn involving humanoids. It's a side hustle. I'm not a full-time artist, or aspiring to be one. It's a hobby for me, but dead as furries put artists through college. It's a solid way to make money, but it's embarrassing, hence why I don't tell anyone I do it. BC they'd judge me the first time. I was just kind of like, damn, has it really come to this? But now it's just a convenient way to make money. Yeah. I have a sketchbook just for my NSFW stuff, and I had to label it so people wouldn't just pick it up to look through. Got tired of explaining to friends, no, I'm not into that. I get paid to draw that. It was really embarrassing, lol. I had to put down my tablet pen and just contemplate every 5 minutes because I felt like an absolute fool. You staring at the zoomed in picture of a dick you're drawing, realizing that you've just spent 20 minutes carefully detailing realistic veins on that schlong. What the fuck am I doing with my life? Posting for my so, since she does not use a Reddit. Pros: money is great. Nobody bitches and whines about paying in exposure. Most clients are polite. Cons: some requests make you hate human race. You can't even mention you are a female cause they will simp all over you. Some clients can be very picky about end products details. Don't ask. Sometimes I see Rule 34 commissions my girlfriend is working on, and I'm just really confused why somebody wants to have a drawing of that. It's a decent side income for her, and most people who commission art from her seem quite polite and reliable about paying compared to when she does other stuff like band logo commissions. They just request some really odd things. A giant robot fridge with a dick that comes out of the freezer compartment that's simultaneously screwing a furry skunk character and turning them into an ice cube was a pretty memorable why moment. TL. Doctor, it started as a desperate way to deal with my PTSD. Now it's a financially successful comic with over 140 pages. I started writing a porn comic as a way to deal with the near-death experience I went through. I had to be put into a medically induced coma for over a week because of a really bad upper respiratory infection, not COVID-19, and I have PTSD from that. It is nightmarish to wake up in a hospital from a coma and have a whole building full of people basically do whatever they want with you and your body without even consulting you. At first, making porn was embarrassing, but my need to express what I had been through in a free way outweighed that embarrassment. In order for me to write the dialogue and plan out the plot, I had to access feelings and memories I was trying so hard not to connect with. Creating characters I could empathize with was difficult, but it was easier than empathizing with other people, because I had come to distrust other humans so deeply. A few months after I started making the comic and releasing it for free online, I found people were collecting it. They urged me to start a crowdfunding site, which became pretty successful. Now, 2 years later, multiple chapters of the comic have come out, and it's the main source of income for the illustrator I partner with. Edit. Since people are asking, the name of the comic is Princess Claire, a royal endowment. Heads up though, if you don't like future girls with huge dicks, you will not like this comic. SFW sample of the comic. What was it like first? Well, I had to change my underwear couple of times. Being able to draw exactly what you imagine is something that's hard to describe without trying it out. When I first started sharing my art online, I used to get somewhere between 0 and 10 likes on it. After switching to NSFW, those numbers went to 100s and sometimes 1000s. I still haven't made any money out of this, but that's something I hope to be able to do in the future. Well, I don't really know if I count as a Rule 34 artist, but I did draw something crappy one time. In my mind, the fun of Rule 34 is that you find porn of things you never thought you would. I was at the Rule 34 subreddit and was disappointed that it's pretty much just a generic hentai sub. I posted a picture of the California raisins jerking off and got downvoted. Anyway, I got the idea to find something that violates Rule 34. It was hard. I got to see Mr. Magoo fucking Jessica Rabbit. But eventually I hit pay dirt. There was no porn of HAL 9000 fucking the monolith from 2001, A Space Odyssey. So I fixed that, albeit with my non-existent art skills. At first it got downvoted, but then something interesting happened. The Rule 34 bot that's supposed to identify characters, genres, fetishes, my post broke it. So it proceeded to list every character and fetish under the sun until it ran out of space. That makes for interesting perusal. Did you know that orange is a fetish? I clicked on it and it was just porn, but everything's orange. In all my days on Reddit reading, I posted a picture of the California raisins jerking off and got downvoted has made me want to learn what awards do, how to buy them, and give one to you for how hard reading that and then thinking how funny it is that 1, such a picture would exist, 2, that someone would also want to then share it with others in an unfortunately vanilla Rule 34 subreddit, then 3, that they would be disappointed and or confused that such a picture was met with downvotes. I wanna see that raisins picture now, so I can upvote the sem hell out of it for you. I was pretty young, like 12y/0 or something, and I used to draw it when I was horny. That wasn't too often though, but it was interesting, weird and confusing. I didn't figure out myself yet, lol. It took me years to notice I like to draw NSFW for its artistic and narrative value, aside from titillating other people, and nowadays I'm trying to grow a NSFW Twitter account and see where it leads me to. Sadly, I haven't got tons of money from it, just a few commissions. I was trying to do SMTH for my ex. I was getting into digital art for fun, and I struggled with the human body and skin. So she told me to draw her from memory, and I did, and she liked it. So she told me to draw stuff for her from time to time. Wattpad fanfics basically. She described the character and I would draw them, and she lines be like, "Oh yeah, it's odd seeing a representation. Thack ass hun." I felt awkward, but it was hilarious too. Can't really say I had a commission one day, and I rarely get commissioned. That was futanery, and my then husband came home, got a glance at my Wacom screen and simply shook his head. These days I get the usual questions of, don't you get aroused by your own art? Do you mind if I jacked it to your work? Damn, it's straight up like living a double life. I have a secret folder on my laptop filled with NSFW sketches that I've made of characters from my favorite anime/cartoons. I only draw these things when my girlfriend isn't at home, and if she comes home unexpectedly, I close everything down as quickly as possible so she doesn't find out. I've had a few close calls, and she can probably tell I'm hiding something. Sometimes I even worry she thinks I'm having an affair, when in reality I'm just drawing smutty cartoon pictures. Not a porn artist, but once I was 14, and I drew a man and a woman having an intimate moment on a paper. Next thing I find are my drawings being organized on my desk. My mom had went through them. I'm glad she did though, because now she thinks I'm straight. Okay, to be fair, I'm definitely not a porn artist. I only draw it very occasionally, mostly to get over art block. For some reason, just drawing funny poses without worrying about clothing folds is great for busting art block. But I do remember the first time I drew something very explicit instead of just some boobs or suggestive content. I drew it in a teeny tiny notebook when I was like 16. Just some normal anime porn stuff, and then I got so embarrassed that I hid it at the bottom of a drawer. And then, later, I found it again, in a completely different spot. My mom found it at some point. She must have. However, neither of us have ever brought it up. Years later, I still think about it sometimes. I have a character that's got tentacles for hair, no relation to Splatoon, and is a femboy. He is very popular with my circle of internet friends. They've all commissioned me several times to draw him in varying outfits, poses, scenarios, etc. He's basically the only thing that can break my art block for similar reasons to what you listed. I'm 90% sure my mom saw a drawing I did of him on a scrap of paper from a downward angle from the back, while his skirt got blown up. She hasn't mentioned it, and I'm scared to bring up my art around her now, because of how scared I am that she'll bring it up, and I'll have to explain that some of my closest friends have essentially formed a religion based around my squid-haired femboyok. My friend started doing commissions with his community, and he had started growing a huge fan base, so he had asked for some help from his friends that could draw. I handled furry stuff, he did niche fetishes, and the other friend did hentai. I was surprised that people were willing to drop even $100 on this. My first time doing this was actually surreal. It was lots of fun to do, and was a great way to pass the time on road trips. Would draw on an iPad and send to friend. I eventually realized that I couldn't do human stuff because I couldn't get it right. Then someone dropped $500 for furry reasons. The friend had given me the commission cause he knew how good I was at anthropomorphic animals, and he sent me a picture of the text chain. And it was only 2 pages, so I thought easy money. This was my first furry related commission, and realized that this was my favorite thing to do. It is my favorite hobby outside of D&D. I had gotten $300 for drawing, and split the rest with the team. I knew now that the furry community was loaded, and started doing this as a job. My parents were really confused on how I was running into enough money to buy a MacBook Pro, or a new iPad, or serious gaming equipment, so I knew that I had to tell them what I was doing for a living. After telling them my situation, they understood it 100% and said that we accept what you are doing. I gave them a heads up to my parents not to tell one of the friend's mom, because she was very Christian and would try to destroy our project by any means necessary. I have been doing this for a couple of years now and try not to get burnt out. I really enjoy this hobby and am now probably a furry. When I was really young, like 11 or 12, I drew a taste for furry pinup. Growing up in the 90s year, exposed to lots of cute furries via cartoons. It was exciting because my religious upbringing blanketed nudity and the body with shame. My mom found it and gave me a talk that I was too young to be drawing like that. Several years later I would doodle stupid implied NSFW scenarios of my ox with my friends from roleplay groups multiple times weekly. Cut to the present where I draw a porn comic as my major hobby and take occasional commissions. Since it isn't my livelihood I can refuse the real crazy ones. People wanting nude art of 13-year-old girls. For example, I legit love drawing porn, though. People will pay me for this? I had lost family financial support and needed the money to continue going to school, didn't have a car, so most jobs were unattainable in an area with zero public transport. I quickly attracted the attention of some serious whales and was making $300 off of like 6 hours of work. Basically work one day for a week's worth of minimum wage, more if I wanted more. The stuff I was doing wasn't even really pornographic. I did 1 or 2 images as a special commission and got typecast as someone who would do a specific type of fetish material where the depicted were generally fully clothed and nothing sexual was actually happening. Despite the pay, I dropped it as soon as I had other options because at the end of the day, sex work is sex work. You're taking intimate requests specifically to make someone aroused and eventually orgasm. You're letting them into your brain because the art doesn't just happen. You have to compose and render it. I was spending hours of my life on a regular basis devoting creative energy and physical toll, sitting at a computer in a cheap chair, bad back support, strain on the wrist, staring at a screen, to art I had no investment in besides making sure every minute detail requested was present. The final straw was having a situation come up that meant a commission would be late and contacting the client to let them know and having them respond that it was fine. They understood because they were also coming up on a busy season in their job that had them working around children at a school. All of the material they had commissioned from me featured characters from games/shows that were canonically underage but aged up to be 18+ in school uniforms and settings. You have no way of knowing who you're making the work for, and I was grossed out by the thought of who I might be establishing intimate contact with. You don't know who you're giving pleasure to. It has been several years and honestly, I've considered going back to it, but only making the kind of stuff I personally enjoy and trying to attract patrons or something that would be into it. No commissions, just, hopefully, getting paid to do stuff I make for me. The end. Thanks for watching.